What if everything you've been told about eating less as you get older is only half the story? Because here's what most people over 60 are quietly getting wrong. They cut their calories. They eat smaller portions. They think they're doing the right thing. And in some ways they are. But there's a second half to that equation that almost nobody talks about. And when you miss it, you don't just stay the same. You actually start to lose something you can't easily get back. I'm not talking about weight. I'm talking about your strength, your energy, your ability to stay independent. So before you take another bite or skip one, stay with me. Because what I'm about to share comes straight from the National Institutes of Health. And there's one detail buried in their guidance that genuinely changes how you should think about food from this point forward. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I've heard this before. Eat less, move more. I get it. And look, I respect that. You've been navigating health advice for decades, some of it good, a lot of it contradictory, and almost none of it designed specifically for someone in their 60s, 70s, or beyond. That's exactly why this matters. The National Institute on Aging, which is part of the NIH, one of the most trusted medical research bodies in the United States, put together specific nutritional guidance for older adults. And when you read it carefully, something jumps out immediately. They don't just talk about eating less. They talk about a very specific tension that exists in the body after age 60. A tension between two things that are pulling in opposite directions. And most people, and honestly, even some doctors, don't explain this clearly. We're going to get into exactly what that tension is in just a moment. But first, I want to make sure you understand why the number of calories you eat is actually just the beginning of the conversation, not the whole conversation. Stick with me here. This gets practical fast. Let's start with the basics, but not in a way that talks down to you. The NIH guidance is clear. If you're a woman over 60 and you're not very physically active, your body likely needs around 1,600 calories a day to maintain your current weight. If you're moderately active, meaning you move around regularly, maybe walk, do light activity, that goes up to about 1,800. And if you have what they'd call an active lifestyle, you might need anywhere from 2,000 to 2,200 calories. For men, those numbers are a bit higher. Not very active, about 2,000 to 2,200 calories. Moderately active, 2,200 to 2,400. Actively moving through your day, you could need up to 2,600. Now here's where most people get it wrong. They see those numbers and they think, okay, fewer calories, smaller portions, I'll just eat less of what I already eat. And they make it work. But what they don't realize is that eating less of the same things doesn't necessarily mean eating better. And after 60, that distinction matters more than it ever has before. Your body's calorie needs go down with age. That part is true. But your nutrient needs, they don't go down with it. In fact, in some areas, they go up. That's the tension I mentioned. And it's the core of everything we're going to talk about today. So what does nutrient density actually mean in real life? Think of it this way. Imagine you have a small bag. That's your daily calorie budget. Every day, you have to fill that bag. Now you could fill it with things that take up a lot of space but don't weigh much. Or you could fill it with things that are heavy, dense, packed with value. Nutrient-dense foods are the heavy ones. They give you vitamins, minerals, protein, fiber, all the things your body is quietly asking for, without blowing your calorie budget. And here's why this matters personally. After 60, your body is doing a lot of quiet work that you don't always feel. It's maintaining bone density. It's trying to preserve muscle mass. It's managing blood sugar, heart function, immune response. All of that requires fuel. Real fuel, not just calories. The NIH puts it plainly. Older adults often need fewer calories but more nutrients. And that combination, less room in the budget, higher nutritional demands, means that every single food choice carries a little more weight than it used to. This next detail changes everything. When researchers look at what older adults are actually eating versus what their bodies actually need, there's often a gap. People are eating enough to feel full, but not always enough to actually nourish. And that gap, quiet, invisible, not dramatic, is what slowly erodes energy levels, muscle strength, and resilience over time. Now let's talk about something that trips up almost everyone: And it's not your fault, because the food industry has made it genuinely confusing. There's a difference between a serving size and a portion size, and most people use these terms like they mean the same thing. They don't. A serving size is a standard measurement. It's the number you see on the nutrition label. It's what researchers and nutritionists use to compare foods. It's a reference point. A portion size is how much you actually eat, and your portion can be completely different from the serving size listed on the package. The NIH uses a great example. The serving size on your cereal box might say 1 cup, but when you pour it into a bowl in the morning, not measuring, just pouring, you might easily end up with 1.5 cups, maybe 2. That's not a character flaw. That's just how most of us eat. And when you're eating out, this is where it really gets away from people. Restaurant portions have grown dramatically over the decades. What comes on your plate at a sit-down restaurant is often 2, sometimes 3 times what a standard serving would be. And when the food is in front of you, it feels normal. It feels like a meal. So what do you do about this practically? The NIH suggests a few strategies that are genuinely simple. Order a smaller appetizer instead of an entree as your full meal. Split an entree with someone. Or eat half of what's on your plate, ask for a box, and have a real second meal the next day. You're not depriving yourself. You're just dividing it differently. These aren't tricks. They're just ways of staying in control without obsessing over every calorie. Here's something that catches a lot of people off guard. Calories from beverages are easy to forget. Not because people aren't paying attention, but because drinks don't feel like food. They don't feel like a meal. They don't make you feel full the same way. So it's easy to undercount them entirely. But if you're drinking sodas regularly, or sweet coffee drinks, the kind with cream and syrup and flavor shots, or alcohol a few nights a week, those calories add up fast. And they tend to be calorie-dense without being nutrient-dense. They fill your budget without giving your body what it needs. The good news? Shifting your beverages can make a genuinely significant difference without feeling like you're giving something up. Water, obviously, but also sparkling water if you like the texture of carbonation. Herbal teas, black coffee or coffee with just a small amount of milk. These keep your calorie budget in check while actually keeping you well hydrated, which is another thing older adults need to be more intentional about, because the sensation of thirst tends to decrease with age. This is one of those places where a small shift, not a dramatic overhaul, leads to a real, felt difference over time. Okay, this next part is why watching until now actually matters. Because we've covered calories, portions, nutrient density, and those are all important. But what I'm about to share is the piece that ties it all together in a way that actually makes it livable. The NIH doesn't just say eat better. They offer a concept that I think is genuinely useful. The idea of food shifts, not an overhaul, not a diet, not starting over, shifts. The idea is that you don't have to change everything at once. You move gradually toward a healthier eating pattern by making small substitutions over time. Swap one thing, let it become normal, then swap another. And here's why this matters psychologically, especially for people who've tried to change their eating habits before and found it didn't stick. Dramatic changes create resistance. Your body resists them. Your habits resist them. Your social life resists them. Because food is connected to family, to memory, to identity. Telling someone to completely overhaul their diet at 65 or 70 isn't just hard. It can feel like an erasure of something meaningful. But a shift? A shift says, keep what you love. Just nudge it slightly. Have the same breakfast, but add one thing that wasn't there before. Replace one afternoon snack with something that gives you more. You're not losing something. You're adding value to what's already there. That framing changes everything about how sustainable healthy eating feels after 60. Let me give you a concrete example that I think is one of the most clarifying things in the NIH's guidance. They look at a list of snacks, all roughly 100 calories each. Same calorie count, completely different nutritional value. For 100 calories, you could have a 7 or 8-inch banana, or about 20 peanuts, or 3 cups of low-fat popcorn, or 2 regular chocolate sandwich cookies, or half a cup of low-fat ice cream, or 1 scrambled egg cooked in a small amount of oil, or 2 ounces of baked chicken breast with no skin. Same 100 calories. Very different amounts of protein, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Now, and this is important, the NIH isn't saying the cookies are forbidden. They're saying the right choice depends on what else you've eaten that day. If you've had a protein-rich lunch and a fiber-packed dinner, maybe the cookies are fine. If your day has been light on protein, the chicken or the egg starts to look a lot more valuable. This is what it means to think about quality, not just quantity. It's not about rules. It's about understanding what your body is asking for, and then making a conscious choice rather than a default one. That's the difference between being controlled by food habits and actually managing them. All right, let's make this actionable, because information without application is just interesting trivia, and you deserve more than that. Here are 5 realistic things you can do starting this week, directly informed by what the NIH recommends for adults over 60. First, figure out your rough calorie range. You don't need to count every calorie obsessively, but having a general sense of your range, based on whether you're sedentary, moderately active, or active, gives you an anchor. Use the numbers we talked about as a reference point, not a cage. Second, before you eat out, have a plan. Decide in advance that you'll either order a smaller dish, split something, or take half home. Make the decision before you sit down and before you're hungry, because once the bread arrives, willpower is fighting an uphill battle. Third, audit your beverages for 1 week, not forever, just 1 week. Write down what you drink, or just notice it. You might be surprised how many calories are coming from drinks you don't even think about. Fourth, make one food shift this week. Just one. Maybe it's swapping an afternoon snack for something with more protein. Maybe it's adding a vegetable to a meal that didn't have one. Small, specific, achievable. Fifth, think about what you're getting, not just what you're cutting. Instead of, I shouldn't eat that, try, what would give me more right now? It sounds subtle, but it changes your relationship with food from one of restriction to one of intention. And of course, please talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian before making significant changes to how you eat, especially if you're managing a health condition or taking medications. Everything shared today is based on NIH guidance, but your individual needs are exactly that. Individual. Your healthcare provider knows your full picture. Here's what I want you to take away from today. And I mean really take away, not just nod at and forget. You are not at the mercy of aging. You are navigating it. And there's a profound difference between those two things. Your body after 60 is not broken. It's not failing. It's changed. And what it needs from you has changed with it. It needs you to be a little more intentional, a little more thoughtful, not perfect, intentional. The tension between needing fewer calories and needing more nutrients is not a trap. It's actually an invitation to pay closer attention to what you eat, not because you're afraid of what happens if you don't, but because you understand what's possible when you do. Staying strong for the people you love, maintaining the independence that lets you live your life on your own terms, having the energy to show up for a grandchild's game, a trip you've been planning, a morning walk with someone who matters to you. That's what's on the other side of these quiet daily choices. And none of it requires perfection. It requires direction. You've already got the direction. Now it's just one small shift at a time. In an upcoming video, we're going to talk about something closely connected to this, how your body's relationship with protein changes after 60, and why most older adults aren't getting enough of it even when they think they are. It's one of the quietest and most consequential gaps in how we eat as we age. I think you'll want to see it. If today's video gave you something useful, a new way of thinking about food, a little more clarity in all the noise, consider subscribing. This channel is built specifically for people who want to age with strength, not confusion. And there's a lot more coming that I think you'll find genuinely worth your time. Take care of yourself. You've earned it.